Hello and welcome to Dungeoneered, a podcast dedicated to discussing Dungeons and Dragons. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Josh.
Let's do this. So Josh, before we begin, first and foremost, this is a very, very late episode, thanks to yours truly, Josh, but
Wow. Wow, you just throw my name in there so they think I'm the one? Yours truly means Aaron.
No, it's actually my fault because I've been moving and doing a bunch of stuff with school. So
and it's understandable. You're starting school. You're moving house. Like there's a lot of things going on. Where I think we can all cut him some slack this time, guys.
Well,
this time only.
Yeah, just a little bit. But it was funny though because yesterday we were supposed to record, and I get home and get everything set up, and I'm like, I just don't have a mouse. I literally can't access my computer to record on. Oh, rip me. I moved all my stuff. I was hoping
to record because I would have had time to record, edit, and then release it that night. That's what I was hoping to do. And it would have been on time. We would have been fine. We would have been on time then.
Well, it was funny too because I set an entire box aside because I knew that I was going to be in this weird stage of half moved, half not moved, 3/4 moved, a fourth not moved. So I set up an entire box to put all of my computer stuff. And there was two things that I forgot. One was the mouse, which I don't know how I forgot it, but it was just stuffed in one of my boxes. And then second, the little thing that holds up the microphone arm. Yeah, I brought that with me too. So now I have to hold my microphone with my pop filter so that I can actually speak into it. So rip me. But to jump into the podcast for our Lukewarm Open, we were talking about doing some character creation stuff, and I had asked if we had any preferences for who wanted to create a character. One of the things I want to say,
I didn't have time to go through all of our podcast, but I have confirmed in my own brain 1,000% sure we have created characters in each other's worlds.
Have we?
Yes.
Oh, no.
As an actual part of our podcast. Actual podcast type level. It was the one where we just sent the whole episode talking about each other's worlds, and so we're like, well, what do we build at this point? And I said, why don't we just build characters in each other's world? Because my person was a character from Raven Rock or Raven Rook that was like part of the Thieves Guild / thing. Like I 100% remember this.
But
I am totally okay doing building another character in each other's worlds.
Because I remember us talking a lot about our worlds and like talking about how we created characters, but I don't remember we actually made characters. But I mean, we probably did. My memory is terrible when it comes to the podcast, so I don't remember. Every time I sit down to do Lukewarm Open, I'm always like,
"What have we done?
Did
before?
I do this already?"
Yeah,
I have no idea. But do I take notes? Absolutely not. So. But I still think it'd be fun to create characters.
It would, and I'm still up for it. Let's do it.
Okay, cool. So my question is, do you want to make a character first and I guide you through the character creation process, or do we want to reverse the roles and I make a character first and you guide me through your creation, your character creation process?
As I don't know what world I would build your character in,
so this might
I would say let's start with
what was that?
As I don't know what world to build your character in, I would say let's start with you, and then I'll pick between episodes where we're going to build your character.
So you want to make a character first, and I kind of guide you through that process.
As I have two worlds actually, I technically have 3 worlds going on right now. I don't know where I would build your character.
Aren't you're DMing, what, 2 different games?
I'm DMing 2 games, but one of them is, like, we can see the finish line on the horizon, so whenever a player is missing for a session, we just say, hey, why don't we play a one-shot in the next world? So I technically have 3, and at this point, my friend just straight up, like, pulled me aside and was like, dude, stop saying you're doing one-shots in this other world. You've played 8 sessions in that other world. You're playing that other world. And I'm like, no, you're right.
We're already using that world.
You're right. There's 8 sessions. That's enough to say that there's a campaign beginning in that world.
How come you didn't, for your newest campaign, the one that you just started with some of friends that I may know?
Yeah.
Why didn't you do it in that new world? Why did you make a new one? Just for fun? Just for kicks?
I love creating worlds, and honestly, I'm going to be honest, I was not 100% happy with where that other world was, and I kind of wanted to try. I am still, I think all of us, any DM that you will ever meet is, hey, ever meet. I mentioned that city again. I'm sorry, that was a bad joke. Any DM that you will ever meet is constantly growing as a DM and as a person. And so
well, except for me, because I'm perfection, but
that's
understandable.
True.
Yeah.
Sorry. Except for Aaron.
I just repeat lukewarm open topics because I can't remember which ones I've done and which ones I haven't.
So I am still trying to figure out what I think would be an interesting, what is a good way to build a world? What is the best way to design a new world? And I don't even know
if I can answer that question, to be honest.
So for my second and fourth worlds, I have made the same frickin' mistake. I have put too much on myself too early. Too many things that I
started with everything all at once and you can't put it together?
Yeah, sort of. I have created a huge world that has
82 continents,
15 or 16
countries.
nations. And inside those nations, I wanted to create the governments, the locations, the major NPCs, the culture, the exports, the imports, and the friendships. That is a lot of stuff to do for 16 freaking nations.
That's a big yikes for me, dog. That's a lot to do.
I know it is a lot to do, and I overburdened myself with that, and I regret it to this day. But in my new world that I built, I created a small little continent with 5 nations, each of them thoroughly filled out from all of those things that I wanted, but with these 5 nations. That's all it is. So each nation has, in my notes, has a description of what it is. At the end of that description, I have its main exports. What does it export? And then after that, I have what does it import? Then after that, I just have what the cities are. What are the cities, and what is a basic description of every city in this nation? That's all I have. I don't need anything else.
You've gotta make it easy on yourself, because I don't know, even my world, I've been in this world for forever, since high school. So I don't know, 10 years now. Mm-hmm. So even my world, as large as it is, I still don't have all that stuff done for some of the nations,
Yeah. I have made life easy on myself in this world in quite a few ways, and I think the world feels just as rich and full without me doing as much. I have 2 gods.
Yeah, well,
there are 2 gods. That's it. There's
2 gods. Oh man.
There's the devil and God, and that's it. There's Jazirian, the Coatl god, manifested as a vast rainbow-colored Coatl, simultaneously winding through the air and forming a circle with his or her tail in his or her mouth. The majority of the inhabitants of Calendria see Jazirian as a hermaphroditic and sexless god. That's it. That's the god. The enemy, the evil, is Asmodeus. Everybody knows Asmodeus.
Yeah.
Looks like a slim, charismatic, red-skinned humanoid over 13 feet tall with horns on his head and glowing red eyes. That's it.
So, Satan.
It's Satan. It's Satan.
Yeah.
Now,
and that makes it way easier.
For if people want to follow something specific, there are saints. The saints are saints of the devil or saints of God. It doesn't really matter. Each of them, there are evil ones, there are good ones. You can follow them as you want. And they are the ones that clerics would follow to have different domains. But even still,
that just makes it
technically the follower.
Makes it simple for players.
Yes, you're still technically a follower of Jazirian. So if you want, you could just be a cleric of Jazirian. You could be just a cleric of God. And it wouldn't really matter who your saint is. You don't even have to have a saint if you don't want to. And so I've just made things incredibly easy on myself in this next world. And I really love that. And I think that's
I don't
really
know.
helpful because it still feels just as big and rich of a world, and the story of it is really freaking cool, and I'm so excited to play it, and I might spoil it if you want. But also, I think my story of my world that's way too big and really hard is also really freaking cool, but also I'm just so exhausted by it.
Yeah.
And I
think you sit
that's
down, you have to like...
You have to force yourself to work on it, and that's not... We're here to have fun. That's not what we want. We don't want this to be a struggle.
Yeah, and that's never a fun spot.
Sorry, I've been on a rant for a few minutes now.
No, it's good. No, I was gonna say, like, I don't know, if I'm thinking about my campaigns so far. My first campaign, I don't know, I liked it, but like there was a lot of room for improvement for me. It was like my first major campaign, and I made a lot of mistakes, and you know, a lot of things that the players in my group didn't enjoy, and you know, so it kind of like hampered the experience a little bit. The second campaign, I've taken a lot of what I've learned in my first campaign and kind of, you know, helped me, you know, direct the game a little bit. And I don't know, simplicity, you know, we're stuck in the same nation still, you know, like we haven't done anything outside of the same nation, you know? So I don't know, simplicity just really works.
But we run back to our home nation. We technically have, but we run back to our home nation when we're done.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you've been to one other nation where it was literally nothing, but yeah, there was nothing there because it's the middle of nowhere.
No, we found some portals. We did some things.
Oh, true. Yeah, true.
We found another abandoned city that clearly had some bad juju going on. Juju Magumbo, sorry. That's the correct term.
But even still, it's kind of like I've just chosen a little, I haven't chosen an area, but like, you know, you're just in a little area that I've really fleshed out. But I mean, again, I've been working on this world for a very long time. So a lot of the world is already fleshed out. But like, you know, it's just, I don't know, sometimes it's just easier on the DM. It's easier on the players too. They don't have to keep track of like every individual export and import of a nation and there's 25 of them, you know, like it's just,
I have looked at the YouTuber Jorfdan. Jorfdan, which I believe he wants the PH to be silent, but I will never call it that. Jorfdan is Jorfdan. I don't care if you want it to be Jordan. It's Jorfdan. That's how you spelled it. That's how I will pronounce it till I die.
Oh no, Riveroni.
Jorfdan, which it's hard to say, Jorfdan. He showed on a live stream of his that he uses a website called Notion. And that's where he does all it. He says it revolutionized how he does his building of his worlds and everything. And I was like, you know, I'm going to try it because I've tried like World Anvil. I've tried all these like well-known name brand stuff. And Notion, the funny thing about it is it's a business thing. It's not for world building in any way. It is to have a collaborative business document with a bunch of different pages and stuff coming off of it that everyone can update and kind of progress as, like, say you have like a bunch of different goals of like, we need to complete this, and this. People can take those little things and say, okay, underneath I have done such. Like they can add, everybody can add and replace and change things on these documents.
That's so good.
I was like, okay, I'm going to try it out. So I have... since my third campaign, my post-apocalypse world, I have been building on Notion. I love Notion. Notion.so is my favorite.
And it just, everybody can add and do whatever they want with it too, which is super great.
I create first a document of world. This is the world. This is, if you talked to like a civilian, or even thought in your own brain if you were like born and raised on this continent, you should know these basic facts. So I want you to have access to these basic facts. Say you're going to another nation. There are basic facts about that nation you should know from just living on this continent. Or even in this world.
Or just like, living in proximity of it. You know?
Yeah, like I know things about Italy, and I know things about Germany that I never went there, but I know these basics because I live on this world. So I give them a Notion that is specifically built with just basic player knowledge. This is all knowledge of everything in the world that you should know to an extent. There's certain things that, like, well, maybe you would need to study on this a little more, so then you'd have to make a roll for. But other than that, it should be in Notion. And
yeah,
so
this
I
is the
shared
stuff that you just experienced day-to-day life.
It was super easy to do for my first time because it was a post-apocalypse world, so it was one city. So it's major NPCs in that city that you would just know basics about, major groups in that city that you would just know about. And the interesting thing is, because I gave that to them, to the players, I also gave them a place that they could put their own little players' notes. So like little notes that they would keep as we're playing the game. Some of them added to it, some of them didn't. But it's the same as some would take little notes and some wouldn't.
I mean, that's like
and now
it's super awesome to have a tool like that.
Now these notes are visible to anybody. Anybody in the campaign could go to this Notion and like click on Tristan's notes and be like, oh, Tristan wrote what? Tristan wrote this. Oh, Ted wrote that, and be able to like look at the basic
info. Be able to see everybody's individual notes. Yeah, it's so good.
And the fun thing that they have done that I have not encouraged or said for them to do, they have created a bestiary. So these are weird.
Oh wow!
Because they're dealing with like zombies, as I said, like abominations. This is a post-apocalypse world. They have created like different abominations that they had seen. And then there's also the main big bad guys are what they know as the council. So they're like still trying to figure out which ones are on the council and what aren't. So they have, okay, these are abominations that we know are extremely powerful and even are sentient. Here are the ones we're going to put down. There's this weird Drider that we've met. There's the Herald of Jashin. There's Jeron. There's the Rotwalker. We don't know which one of these are like council members versus just well-known or just major bosses. And so they put them down, and they've actually began to use this, even adding to like groups that I have not added for them. They have began to add and grow to it, and kind of putting their own little notes behind these different things, like, oh, this is pronounced this way, this is with, and I just it has become a resource of like, hey, I don't remember this. Let's just go to our Notion and look up like what we wrote about it.
That's pretty fun too, because I was gonna say that like it could like remove the joy like a player gets from taking individual notes and being able to like being able to like come to a revelation on their own. But at the same time, if everybody looks at their notes and comes to that revelation, it's probably still the same experience.
It is, because it's that one person is the one who was smart enough to remember,
right,
hey, I think this will be important later on. No, I will say, not the people don't look at other people's notes a lot. Like, that person's notes still feel like their notes and not something that the rest of the players are constantly looking at, because why would you look at Josh's notes every week? Like, why do you think something would change from what you saw 2-3 weeks ago to now? So a lot of times those revelations still happen only with that player, and then the rest of the players can join in and run over to their Notion and be like, what did you write? Oh, that makes so much sense now that they like they see it all written down, and like it feels like a group thing. Like, I'm going to be honest, I didn't look at my Notion until I started talking about it. Like the Notion, I didn't know they'd started creating a bestiary here. I just found this out this moment.
And I'm assuming
that's really cool to me
too, right? You can like look and...
Yeah, because I created the Notion first. So I technically have ultimate control over it. And like, I didn't see that they'd started they even like, I had started by adding pictures to the Notion.
You can add pictures?
Yeah, you can add pictures. So all of my NPCs have a little picture. So it has a small picture to show like who they are from far away. Then if you click on the NPC's actual like page, it brings you to a page that has their picture much larger and a brief description of them.
That's pretty cool, actually.
It is.
I like that a lot.
Really nice. I'll probably share it with you in just with the link into our Discord, so you can actually look at it. But like, they have added.
I don't know, like note-taking tools. I don't know. First of all, I think note-taking is like really important in D&D, at least for. Yeah, I think it's just really fun to do. I have a horrible time doing it though, even though like I should do it and I love doing it.
I'm gonna say I do not.
I get distracted.
As a player, I don't do it. As a DM, I rarely do it. I should do it more, especially as a DM. But my brain is really good at remembering
so many notes as a DM.
Stupid facts or facts that are not as important. So, like,
yeah, my issue is if I don't take notes as a DM, I get into plot hole troubles.
Yes,
where like I weave a story and it just like doesn't make any sense. So I've got to like.
I will say we
keep it all under wraps.
Way past the lukewarm open time.
Oh yeah, it's already
so I should probably say let's cut it off. I think this is really fun. Use Notion if you want. We're not sponsored. Notion is fantastic.
Surprise, we're sponsored. No, kidding. We're not.
I wish. If Notion wants to sponsor us, I will sing its praises to high heaven. I will sing its praises because it is fantastic.
Just don't listen to the last 10 minutes because that was not that, you know?
I do want to thank Jorfdan for showing it to me because I just watched that, like, I don't know if it was a live stream or a video he made, but he just talked about how he builds his worlds and it is so good. And I have fallen in love with Notion, and thank you. So,
all right, well, let's do the real topic now that we're 25 minutes in. Oh no.
So, this week we're going to talk about somebody that in all of our Star Wars episodes, I feel like every single one, Aaron has brought this character up, not saying their name, but saying the thing that they created. And so I'm like, no, we're not talking about that. No, we're not talking about that. But now, Aaron, we are talking about that.
I am not. It's not ringing a bell at all. Okay. You know, it's just really not. I don't remember.
We're going to talk about a well-known hero.
Wait, give me a hint.
To the Sith.
Give me a hint.
A well-known hero
to the Sith.
Who barely survived their near destruction and reformed the Order to make sure it never happens again. Any ideas?
Boy. No,
Darth?
I really don't have any ideas. I mean, if I had to say Darth Vader, but that would probably be wrong.
Nope. We're talking about Darth Bane.
Oh.
Darth Bane was the sole...
I was born in the darkness.
Was the sole Sith survivor of the destruction of the Brotherhood of Darkness by the Jedi Order. Bane saw the infighting.
Brotherhood of Darkness.
Brotherhood of Darkness is just another name of the Sith at the time that he was alive.
Was that their emo phase or something, or what?
Bane saw the infighting of the Sith before him as ultimately what led to their destruction, and he vowed to find a solution to this darkness. Now, before we jump into that part of the story, we got to talk about Darth Bane's history. Darth Bane was a human from the homeworld of the Sith, which I don't know if you know this, but the Sith are a race in D&D. That's not where it is. The Sith are a race in Star Wars. But by the time that most of us know the world of Star Wars, the Sith have long since stopped being a race. They are, I mean, if any still live, they're few and far between. But they are a race.
What is the Sith race? What do they look like?
They're like red-skinned humanoids, I believe.
Okay.
And they were.
Is Darth Maul supposed to be one of them, or is that
no,
something different?
Darth Maul is something. No. He is something completely different. Darth Maul is a. Now you're gonna make me look this up. A Zabrak, I believe that's what it's called. A Dathomirian Zabrak.
About Star Wars races.
Yeah, I didn't know much, but I looked up what he was. He's a Dathomirian Zabrak. We could talk about him another time, but I'm on to Darth Bane. The Sith were just a race of humanoids that were incredibly leaning towards the dark side. They were born with dark side abilities and dark side kind of inclinations. There we go. That's the right word. Like they were just had a deep connection to the dark side of the Force. And in the same way, there are some races in Star Wars lore that are born with just like light side inclinations and light side connection built in from birth.
I'm assuming they have like lore reasons for that, or is it just kind of random?
I mean, the lore reasons are specifically that the Force is the Force. It's not. That is the best explanation. Is certain races have a better connection to magic than others. Is the best way to explain it. He was made and born on the Sith homeworld of Moraband. This was after the Sith, as he was born a human. When he was born, the Sith were at the height of their powers, nearly the same number as the Jedi. They were spread throughout the galaxy with domination over most, but they struggled with infighting, wanting to fight each other over scraps rather than the Jedi for control. This infighting weakened them and used their resources. So when the Jedi did eventually attack, they weren't able to put up as much of a resistance and were nearly eradicated. All but Darth Bane. It is even said that he organized the Sith's defeat in this way, leaving only him in power.
Trixie.
To forcibly reshape the Sith Order to avoid this type of catastrophe. He would not be another opposing force in the Sith, just yelling for, hey, we need to live this way, Sith. No. He was going to kill them all and start over. Bane knew the Sith Order was created with a failing philosophy. He knew that when he needed to create a new Sith Order, he needed a new philosophy for them to fall under, while keeping the strengths of the Sith still a major part of their tenets. He used the power of Force bonds to bind and lead the Sith, by these creations being a major part of the new Sith. He created Aaron's favorite rule, which he's brought up in multiple episodes. It's the rule of two.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I remember now.
Where there must be two, a master and a student. It was said there should be only two, no more, no less. One to embody power, and one to crave it. This pairing of two created a force bond with Sith Lords and their apprentices, and would create incredible power when the time came to break that bond and the apprentice to rise up. Because in this structure...
Man, I just feel like...
The only way
like it's not a wise move.
The only way a new Sith Master was made was when a Sith apprentice would destroy their master. This structure was set up to set up a sense of planning and trickery into the Sith's very bloodline. He wanted this philosophy to teach by its mere existence the law of always being prepared, and that the best way for success was typically by underhanded action and trickery and deception, not by outright combat.
Okay, well now I'm really curious. Is there ever like a Sith who like broke the rule of two and like became a Sith but didn't like... I guess Count Dooku in the movies.
I was going to say the last Sith. One to follow the rule of two supposedly is Palpatine and Vader. They were the last ones to follow the rule of two. Through these ideas of the rule of two, he hoped to ensure the Sith's survival, no matter what. Bane also started another plan, This one to weaken the Jedi, lulling them into a false sense of victory, and allowing them to grow weak and complacent before striking with incredible force. Bane took on an apprentice, Darth Zana. He began the process of passing his knowledge to his apprentice, teaching her all about his grand plan. The history gets fuzzy here, and the exact details of what transpired are obscured. And that was partially...
she murdered him, is what you're telling me.
Intentional. For it was part of the grand plan in a way. Yes, Aaron. The story seems to be that Zana has taken the steps of the rule of two, and she killed Darth Bane. Now, the reason why I say the obscuring of this knowledge was partially part of the grand plan was that the major part of this story that got back to the Republic and to the Jedi was the news of Darth Bane's death, and it was spread far and wide, eventually reaching the Republic, who were incredibly happy, believing with this all of their foes were now slain. This grand plan was set in motion, making the Jedi get complacent, while Sith infiltrated over the next 1,000 years. One of these entrenched Sith that became entrenched because of this grand plan was Grand Chancellor Palpatine, who continued the movement set in motion by Darth Bane of trickery and manipulation. He set so much in motion from the Clone Wars to being like Revan, making Jedi compromise their ideals, hoping to turn them. But he also used it as an excuse to get rid of the Jedi.
To Darth Jar Jar.
Now, the rule of two has been used as an explanation for Darth Jar Jar. I will say that. He was the master, and the one who pursued it, the one who was his apprentice, was Palpatine. That's the idea.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. Do we know how many, pairs of Sith there have been since Bane?
I could probably figure out. But the thing is, this is a part of history of the Star Wars universe people love. They're always going to create new characters within it.
Yep. Oh, there's another new 2. There's another 2. There's another Master and Apprentice.
There's another show.
Just randomly here now.
I will say, Palpatine did so much that he was declared the greatest Sith Lord to come after Darth Bane. He, as I said, set apart, making Jedi compromise their ideals in times of war. That's part of why he started the Clone Wars as he did, hoping to turn them into Sith. But he also used it as an excuse to get rid of the Jedi, as he would make them do things, as I said already, compromising their ideals, but also being enemies to the people. As he did this, he was able to legally call for Order 66, which was the order that had the clones killing all of the Jedi as they were working with them. Because he had legally set up that the Jedi were doing evil things. That is part of what Darth Bane's ideas were setting in place. Winning victory over the Jedi through trickery and deception.
I was gonna say, wasn't and I've been in weird Star Wars land on YouTube recently too, and didn't Palpatine or somebody not program the clones, but I guess program certain orders, all these orders into them so that he could command them when he needed and wanted, right?
Yes.
Wasn't that the plan?
No, 100%. Yep. That's part of what Order 66 was. But he covered his butt to make him still look like a good guy after doing it, because he made the Jedi out to have done things wrong and deserve being destroyed. Now, like all the greatest Sith Lords, Bane was given a giant tomb. At this time, his was built on his homeworld, Morabond, and he was the last Sith Lord to have a tomb built there. Now, this is the story of Darth Bane, the man who destroyed his own side to rebuild it as he saw, and build it again as he saw it better. Now, from this, I believe my idea was to create a unifying villain. So some sort of villain that their whole thing is, let's get other villains together, because we will be a much stronger force against the good people if we work together.
So you want to create so we already have kind of like a big bad evil guy, like a villain guy.
Yeah.
But we want to create
this
somebody who's going to unite.
This could be a henchman of that villain who decides to be to talk to actual villains and be like, hey, you guys are visible villains that the world knows are evil. Why don't you work on the back end for somebody who is pretending to be good but is actually evil?
We could also do a full-on Bane and do somebody from the past, a conflict that happened in the past that kind of led to where we are now. That could be fun also.
Yeah.
We haven't really talked too much about the past, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not certain what that would be, what kind of unifying force or what kind of evil person would we see in the beginning of the world? Because we have the beginning of the world where the gods through their battles and stuff shaped it and made it, in their art and whatever, made it to what they wanted it to be, and then they made the city. Is that kind of what our plan, our plan is, right?
Sorry, say it again.
So we kind of our history of the world is we have the gods shaped the world based off of fighting and their art and stuff like that, and that kind of created the world as we know it, and then they made the city, right? That's kind of what we had.
Yeah.
Do we want to make a figure who opposed the creation of the city, or opposed I don't know, there's a part of me that wants
I'm not against that. I like the idea of some sort of god of the forest and god of nature that's why are we doing this? This is quantifying nature in a way that's trying to you treat it as a mathematical formula when it is life. Why would you quantify life in that way? And they want to fight against almost turning humanity and society into a battery instead of living, breathing people and treating them as such.
Do we want to do because I'm kind of liking where this is going. Do we want to do a reverse Bane and do a group of good people who were banished or destroyed, who were trying to unify, but who were trying to stop the creation of the city, and then the gods ousted them?
Mm-hmm.
Because it could be interesting. My thought is the gods, if I'm trying to think about this logically, the gods were creating their own worshipers and their own followers, and our unifying villain or unifying person, which could be the head of the pantheon, not the head of the pantheon, but the person who's the head of the
villains.
I don't know what to call it. Head of the, not guilds, but where all the gods participate in this gladiatorial arena and stuff like that to gain followers, and we have the judge guy who's
Overtaker.
Oversees
I don't
everything.
think we made Taskmaster, but I don't think we made a specific name for them.
But it could be fun if that individual is kind of that bad guy of history where he unified all the gods together in order to control the races easier and make them worship and give them power. That could be interesting.
Yeah.
Because we don't really have... we have a reason, obviously, because the gods want power, but, couldn't they have done something different? Couldn't it have been an easier... couldn't they have just, made their own nations or whatever and called it good? So why did they choose to make this city and, a a place for people to come and watch their spectacle when they could just...
I think we originally thought that they had, like, during, like, world creation, they had used so much energy up there, like, we are really weak. We got to do some way of replenishing ourselves. How do we do that quickly? And I think this was the quickest way.
See, my thought is we kind of stick with that scheme, but our unifying villain is the taskmaster, so to speak. He, for some reason or another, like maybe he was like dying or something, and he unified them to keep himself alive by siphoning power off everybody. And he kind of tricked the gods into making this city to help him survive as well. Not that they didn't want to make this city, but like a way to keep himself alive and thriving.
Mm.
Like maybe he suffered a horrible wound during world creation, and
I always love the idea of like surprise enemies. So yeah, I love the idea of the Taskmaster being like an actual surprise major villain.
Yeah, because I'm thinking like during world creation, like he took like a major blow, and like he could not recover from it. Maybe there's like I don't know, like some sort of way that you can kill a god. Maybe there's some weapon that can kill a god, or maybe there's some, some mechanism of some sort that can kill a god. Or maybe he like made a mistake of like keeping his, like his Horcruxes, so to speak, on his person when he got hit by whatever, battle this was, and it almost killed him. And so in order to, it drained all of his power in order to survive, he ended up tricking a bunch of the gods into starting this pantheon and creating this city for people to come in and worship. Like maybe, the people that were created by the gods wouldn't worship him because of his his weakened state. So he essentially tricked everybody to siphon their own power, with the eventual goal in mind to like take over or something. Could be fun. Thoughts?
I think it's interesting. I don't know how far I'd push it to like if I'd push it to okay, if we want him to be like a major villain that's somehow behind a lot of this, how does he know of the other villain? Is he somehow a part of it, or is he completely disconnected from it? Like,
well, my thought is there's a couple things that I thought. If we did, so one, what if like, we talked about how like devils and demons are, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm trying to remember, it feels like it's been forever, but they're like did we decide if they were like the dead bodies of gods? Is that what we were thinking, or did we came up with something else, didn't we?
They were created from like the blood of gods or something like that.
So what if he was like, what if when he like the wound happened to him, he like a lot of his energy was released and destroyed, and it ended up creating this extra force, or this like extra, these creatures, and he was the only god who like knew about it. I don't know if I want it to be like when he got hurt or whatever, but like he's the only god who knew about it, and he wanted to harness their power, but like the Sith had to wait thousands and thousands of years before they gained strength. And so maybe his whole plan was he's actually deceiving the villain of the campaign to build and raise this army for him, because he doesn't have the power to do so until it's his time to take over, so to speak. So he maybe like not revealed it, but like, there was like an accidental discovery or something by this god. But this is all hypothetical. I don't know if I want this. I'm just throwing stuff out.
Yeah. Now, my biggest question for you would be one, do you think that is this a mid-campaign reveal, or is this your campaign is over, but as you, like, once you've killed the main boss, you find out he was being commanded by someone else, and this is a major reveal that leads into a second campaign where you deal with that creature.
I'm thinking
you guys are getting too old.
Level like 15, 16, the party beats the big bad evil guy. Okay, and they were tasked to do so by the Taskmaster because he didn't want the not chain of command, but the system they have in place to be usurped. That was his reasoning, because look at our grand city. If this guy gets what he wants, he could ruin and destroy the whole world, right? But it's his plan is to have the party defeat this entity, because this entity is now powerful and strong. And then when they do so, he gains that entity's power, and he's set up some sort of, maybe we hint at it too a few times throughout the campaign. He's set up some sort of way that when this god dies, their power, their life force or power is like transferred directly into their, he can even save people from dying type secret, right? So like if you kill him, he gains his, power and then becomes like the true big bad evil guy. That's probably how I would do it. I mean, I'd have to think about, but I like the idea of this Taskmaster hires the group, or becomes one of the people who praises the group for fighting this big bad evil guy, and then turns on the Pantheon and turns on the world himself.
Mm-hmm. I like that. So
I think it would be a fun like it would add reasoning behind the creation of the system we have in place. It would add a little bit of plot twist that you'd have to hint at, because that's what makes plot twists fun, is small little hints and themes that could point to it. Mm-hmm. And make him a entity that is seemingly innocent, but you kind of have to like peel back the layers every once in a while and reveal kind of like small little hints of him being kind of weird to the party, because that's what makes a villain really fun. A plot twist villain anyways makes them very, very fun. So I think then the party ends up going into the city. They experience their first festival, blah 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 blah. They meet a bunch of gods, they do a bunch of stuff, they choose people to worship, they do a bunch of miscellaneous missions to gain favor and to do stuff like that with the gods. They start finding out weird different things of like demons or like devils that have like infiltrated part of the world. They kill them, they start reporting back, and then things start getting weird, and they're like, well, why are there demons, that kind of stuff. And then as time goes on, they partner with maybe some of the good gods to figure out, why the heck, god number 6 disappeared, that kind of stuff. And then they eventually figure out that there's this weird creature that's like stealing god energy and god power for, and taking the lives of gods and then absorbing them. They figure out which god it is. They go and they have to tell the Taskmaster, because the Taskmaster is the one who brings down the punishment. The Taskmaster tasks them and is like, yes, this needs to stop. This is, going to ruin everything that we've worked so hard to create. This, flourishing great society. The party goes and fights him. They kills him. And they go back to the Taskmaster, and he goes, thank you so much. I appreciate it. You've now unleashed my plan. And then, city raises from the ground or whatever, and demons come pouring out of the hole and start killing and fighting and destroying gods, and he starts absorbing all the energy. And the party has to make a mad dash to destroy 6 different energy sources that are going to transfer to him, and if they destroy them all, then they can have access to him, and they go and fight him, and then they win.
Okay, hold on.
There you go. That was your 2-minute rundown.
What if they have to kill innocents?
Oh gosh. Yeah. Wow, you just took a turn, man.
Yeah, I did. Because the innocents are going to start following gods in this moment. In this horrible moment. But because the deal that the gods signed, part of that energy is going to this Taskmaster. So they have to find. Now this is going to sound terrible. They have to find incredibly powerful people that up until this moment were non-believers. They didn't choose a god because they didn't want to give part of their strength to a deity. And they have to find these individuals and killed them.
I think it would be fun.
Which would be terrible.
Building off of this. I think it'd be fun if you did like a all of the above scenario where you did like you allowed the party to use their skills and strengths to turn and, persuade different groups to join different sides. And depending on how many sides they were able to turn or kill determines how strong the big bad evil guy is at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there is a paladin that they hunt down and fight and kill, right? To prevent his, cult from joining, right?
Yeah.
Maybe there's a group that the bard persuades and, to join a different god or to abandon their ways of, worshiping this new entity that has arisen, So I think that would be like a fun pseudo few session skill challenge, so to speak, that would add a little bit of longevity to portions of the campaign. That could be really fun, where they have to go hunt down groups or, persuade different groups or, bribe different groups to do different things. And I think that could be super cool. And then depending on how many groups they, persuade or whatever, you can either A, give the illusion that the big bad evil guy is not as strong as he would have been, or you can actually do it, depending on what you want. Halfway through the fight, he could have been a whole lot stronger, but you guys did really well in persuading these people, right? That kind of stuff. And there's no sarcasm in my voice,
Yeah.
But I think that'd be a really fun little end thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I guess what we have to discuss, though, if we wanted to do this, is what was the Taskmaster before he was the Taskmaster? Like, during world creation, was he, like, creating the world with the gods, too? Was he, like, fighting? He was, like, we have him fighting. Like, was he creating ravines and mountains with his weapons? And, like, was he a mighty, strong god? Or was he a god of deceit? Was he what was his background? Because that might also help the party discover such things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think he'd probably, I don't know, maybe he was some sort of, like, god of valor who, like, I mean, I know our gods don't really have domains or whatever. Maybe he was some sort of, like, god of valor who was struck down and now he's, done the, what's the paladin oath that's, like, where they go full evil after a fall or whatever. Not oath of vengeance. Not obviously not redemption. I can't remember. But anyways, something like that where like he goes full evil. Yeah. Oath of the pacifist. Oh yeah, you're right. Totally.
I think that's
But like, maybe something like that where he maybe carved out his own domain, but thanks to the wound he received, he, fell. And maybe he was like a god of like, I don't know, creation or something, and like when he fell, he like devised that plan and used his own blood and own power to create these devils and demons and like planted them like seeds.
Yeah.
For thousands and thousands of years to eventually come back and help him seize his empire.
Yeah.
I think that would be fun.
So, they defeat this first enemy, like you said, level 16.
Yeah, I think you have it like broken up into 4. You have like, beginning, I don't know, some beginning monster thing that maybe hints towards like maybe a devil or something that they fight, like a low CR devil that they fight. And they're like, why the heck is this here? And then you step it up to like the either the bad saint that we created or like the energy stealer guy who like stole, I think is the paladin though. But anyways, he steals the power for the god and gives it to him, or like the, when a god dies, he gives the soul to the other god. And then you have them fight the god at like level 16, maybe level 17. And then you do like the whole chasing around, fighting different groups to prevent them from worshiping the true big bad evil guy from like 18 and 19. And then you end at like, 19 or 20, something around there, fighting the god.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
And maybe even you could do like, when this taskmaster arrives, certain gods choose to worship him, so they have to go fight 5 different gods, and each god has a weapon that corresponds with how the the classes so that they can all have this like god weapon, and they go and fight with their god weapons against the big bad evil guy. You do something like that too, which could be fun.
Mm-hmm. So, let's create more personality details of this Taskmaster. Like, we've created the idea of them in a previous one, but I don't think they're very fleshed out as, like, if we're gonna make them like a super big bad evil guy, we need to flesh that out a little more, like personality wise. We already created like history wise who they were and who they are now, as you created that just a few minutes ago, who they were previously. What is their personality now, and why are they fighting so hard to destroy the gods and even implement these lesser gods as villains?
Yeah, well, I think the second question is easier to answer because I think they want to like regain the power that they once had before they were, killed or whatever, right? So before they were, before they lost the majority of their power. As for personality, I think there's two separate ones. I think the before times, before injury, he was like, a mighty warrior, somebody of valor who, sought to create his own dynasty in his own lands, right? And maybe even was struck down, in some sort of war between, the god, struck down in a war between the gods. So I think he was, valor and honor and, maybe even like conquest, stuff like that. And I think post that, I think he becomes more of like a judge, a figure of justice who probably plays off a strong and confident role in vibe. More of like a facade than anything else. But I think it's still partially true of like his old former self. So kind of like a hint of his old self with a new twist of I am the Taskmaster type thing. And then you would, in order to like show that he's, you'd have to show it with hints of like deception. So maybe like, there's a point where one of the gods feels like they've been, cheated out of power or whatever, and that the Taskmaster took too much or something like that, but he is thought of as like a crazy god, or he's thought of as like a, or maybe it's the god of lies and deceit who says such a thing. So, it's like a boy who cried wolf, So you'd probably have to do something like that. But, he would just be your outstanding, judge type figure, I think, is what you'd probably want to play him as.
Yeah.
Or even maybe he has like a harsh rule that seems a little unjust for the current, the punishment didn't quite fit the crime type stuff, maybe as well. That would kind of just slowly hint at there's something a little bit different about him. You could also give him like two personal guards that are like clad in armor, but nobody's ever seen what they look like on the outside, like on the inside of that armor. Like just give him some like mysterious figures that follow him around. Just like shroud him in a little bit of mystery that people don't quite understand.
Yeah.
But I think too, relatively, I don't think he's not really known by culture because he doesn't really, have any worshipers. He gains his power from the other gods. So, I think his first reveal, mid-campaign or whatever, is probably going to be a kind of a surprise because I don't think he's going to be talked about like at all throughout most of the campaign because he's just not a figure that's out in front of the world, right? So I think that's probably going to be a little bit of a surprise, but in the end, I think, you would hint at it at the beginning that there's some sort of taskmaster, a judge or whatever, or, there would be stories of, ancient texts or whatever of a huge battle where a god fell and was never seen again or whatever. So, that could be interesting. And then the formation of the, current system was created. So that kind of stuff that just slowly hints at this Taskmaster. There's a Taskmaster. It's kind of a surprise, but like, oh yeah, maybe that's the case because it's been hinted at a lot. So, I think that's probably what you'd want to do.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Well, I think this will do for episode 97. 97
Dang.
of Dungeoneered. What a time to be alive. You have 97 episodes of Dungeoneered to go through. Well,
that's a lot of content. That's a lot of content.
Well, thank you all for listening. And if you listen to us on any podcasting apps with ratings and reviews, we'd love if you'd write a review. Let us know what you think about the show. It really helps show that you're engaging with the show in more ways than just one, and kind of helps the app promote us a little more. If you want to write to us, you can write to us at dungeoneered@hotmail.com. We'd love to hear from you if you have ideas for topics, lukewarm opens. I just want to talk about something interesting that we made, interesting that you made and you put in, or something interesting that we made and you put in your world. Whatever it is, we'd love to hear it. We love talking to fans. Anything you can add there, Aaron?
Nope, nothing from me.
Cool. Well, as I always say, always remember to be the sharpest barrel in the bunch. See you next time.
Bye. I win. Bye.